Welcome to the Min Effect episode 9, where I talk about sports and just about everything else. Today we're going to go back to talking about the Minnesota Vikings because I clearly know more about this team than Colin Cowherd. I'm uploading this video before my mock draft. I worked on this mock draft really hard, and it's coming out this weekend for months now, editing it, recording it, everything. And this would be episode 8. But I felt like I had to put this episode before it. This is episode 9, where I'm talking about the Stefon Diggs trade because for some reason the media is going crazy about it again out of nowhere. And I felt like I had to talk about it now rather than after the mock draft comes out, because it's all of a sudden a huge thing again. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. It really is. I mean, Colin Cowherd was... I got a lot of respect for Colin Cowherd. I mean, he's a legend when it comes to sports broadcasting. I think we can all agree that he knows nothing about the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, man, like 1 week he'll say Kirk Cousins should not be starting. Next week he'll say Kirk Cousins should be in the MVP conversation. 1 week he'll say the Minnesota Vikings have the best roster in the league. Next week he'll say they shouldn't even make the playoffs. How does that make sense? I mean, he just, not even weeks. These are days apart, like one day, and then the next day he'll say a different thing. He just kind of doesn't really understand. Well, I don't want to say he doesn't understand. I mean, I'm not calling Cowherd. I don't know everything about football like he does, and he's far above me and whatever. But when it comes to Minnesota Vikings, I think I can clearly say that I know what I'm talking about, and Stefon Diggs is going nowhere. I mean, at least not this offseason. And I can just come up with, I can come back next year, but that's just going to be a loaded video. And I think I could fit this all just ranting about this because this is a bunch of nonsense that the Stefon Diggs is going to get traded. So I'm going to go into why people think Stefon Diggs is going to get traded. And it's because Stefon Diggs would rather play somewhere else. And I worded it like that because Stefon Diggs doesn't want out, but he would rather play somewhere else. This is different than what we saw with Antonio Brown and Jalen Ramsey, where they hated where they played and they wanted out and they wanted to go play somewhere else, anywhere else. That's not Stefon Diggs. I mean, Jalen Ramsey and both Antonio Brown played horrible when they wanted to leave because they wanted to leave. They wanted to just get out of there. So they played horrible. Stefon Diggs is coming off of his best season of his career. I mean, no, the best season of his career. And this is when the entire season he was saying, well, he didn't even say that he wanted to leave. He's never actually verbally said that, but he's said messages. He sent tweets that kind of hinted at it. He did the little wink thing to the commentator or whatever. And so you can kind of see he's sending messages, which I think he's playing it perfectly. Instead of saying just on Twitter, I want to get out of here, he's kind of like hinting like he'd rather play somewhere else. And it makes so much sense. I mean, he's such a talent, and the Minnesota Vikings aren't using him to his potential. We've seen what he can do, and they're just paying him $40 million to run out in the field and distract a safety. It's like, that's not what you do when you have such a talented player. And I understand there's a lot of other talented players on this offense. I mean, Thielen is a generational guy, home person, and they're giving Thielen more than Stefon Diggs, even though Stefon Diggs can do a lot more things Thielen can't. Well, they both can run the routes just the same. I mean, Thielen has a bigger catch radius, but Diggs has a lot more yards after the catch. Anyways, you can use them for different things. They're giving the ball, obviously, to Cook all the time. I mean, these little check down passes I'm so tired of. It works one time, don't do it 20 more times. And then when you use Stefon Diggs to run the ball and he runs for 40 yards, you use it one time and you don't do it any more times. But when something worked for Cook, you do it 40 more times, acting like it's going to work the entire time. We saw Stefon Diggs run the ball for like 40 yards 2 times, and they only did it 2 times. It hasn't not worked is the thing. That's what I'm saying. Stefon Diggs, it makes so much sense. It's not necessarily that he wants out. It's that he wants the ball. He wants the ball. He will stay in Minnesota. He does not hate these fans. He does not hate playing with this team. He does not hate that. What he hates is that he's not used the way he's supposed to be used. And that's the reason why Stefon Diggs wants out. And, well, okay, yeah, I can say it like he wants out because he would go to a place like the Bills and possibly get Madden cover, be one of the best wide receivers in the league. Instead, he's stuck here where he doesn't get used to his full potential. And it's not like things are going to stay the same. We've seen what happened. They got rid of, well, he went to be a head coach, Kevin Stefanski, and now Gary Kubiak's in charge of the offense. And Diggs is making it obvious, like, he wants the ball, and they can work that to him. They can give him the ball. I mean, it's not very hard. He's a healthy guy. He's there in all the games, and you could do so many things with him. So that's the reason why he would want out. However, I think he just wants the ball. But part of getting the ball would probably be leaving in his eyes, because there is a lot of people that get the ball on this offense, like Irv Smith. I love that's the first one I named. Like Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison. Like, these are guys that are getting more targets than Stephon Diggs, and it's just so weird to me. I mean, you can see how he works too. You give him the ball to run with it, he'll run with it. He's great after the catch or whatever. And then you throw the ball in front of him, he's gonna get to it. Kirk Cousins throws a beautiful deep ball that Diggs can track down. But also, if you just throw the ball in front of Diggs, he's going to get it. If you throw the ball right at him, he's probably going to not get it behind him. He's probably not going to get it. That's a Thielen thing. And Kyle Rudolph thing, their catch radius is insane. Diggs, you throw the ball in front of him, he's going to get it. We saw the little thing where Kirk got rid of the ball in like a half a second and got a first down from it. Like, why can't we see more of that? Why are you just giving check down passes to Cook all the time? It doesn't make sense to me, because it's not going to work more than maybe twice a game. That just blows my mind. It's so stupid. And then they're up by 7 points and acting like they have the game in the bag and are just running the clock down. Like, get another touchdown. You're only up by 7. It just doesn't make sense to me. On Diggs will be here next season is because you can do so many things with them that you aren't doing yet. You can make this offense even better, bring it to the next level with using Stephon Diggs and giving him the ball, feeding him the ball. I mean, we saw it in the Eagles game, and the Eagles game went so good. We would not have won that game if it wasn't for keep saying Dalvin Cook. Stephon Diggs, he did throw that. He did have that weird interception, but what that interception taught us was it went to Andrew Sendejo, which is funny, safety for the Vikings, but it was with the Eagles that game. Anyways, you threw it right at him, and it just kind of popped out and went into the hands of Andrew Sendejo. And what it showed was how you can use Diggs. I mean, you throw the ball in front of him, you could throw the ball outside of him too. He does the toe drag swag, as can't remember his name would call it. And if you throw it right to him, he just doesn't catch it for whatever reason. Throw the ball in front of him, he'll track it down. Deep ball, track it down. You can see how to work him, but it's not totally what they're doing yet. And just feed him the ball like you did in the Eagles game, and it will make so much sense. It will actually not want to leave here, which he never verbally said, but he kind of made it obvious. And that's the big reason why they're going to keep him here. The next reason is, this is a win-now team. People will say the window is closed. That's another thing Colin Cowherd said. Don't trust Colin Cowherd when it comes to Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you can trust him when it comes to other stuff, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. He says the window is completely shut for this Minnesota Vikings team, and that's just not true. Even if the Vikings do horrible next season, it's like, it was never shut, because all these players are here that are coming off of their best season of their career. Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins. Mike Zimmer's has one more year on his contract. Rick Spielman has one more year. These guys all have one more year, and I don't know why they're saying that the window is shut when these players have another year and coaches have another year. It just doesn't make sense. Another thing, actually, why people think Diggs is going to get traded is because, well, obviously the trade value, and because they think the window is shut for the Vikings, but the cap space. I mean, this team is the worst when it comes to their cap space, negative $21 million in cap space, and that's the worst in the entire NFL. But really, it's not hell. Like, all they need to do is cut Rhodes, don't give contracts to all these other players. Well, not all these other, don't give contracts to most of these free agent players. And then maybe you cut another player if you're planning on getting Marcus Mariota, which I talked about in my previous videos, where they need to try to get Marcus Mariota. But if they don't, it's okay. And you can deal with this negative $21 million cap space, and you're already most of the way there by cutting Rhodes. So that's another reason why people think Diggs is going to get traded. And if Diggs does get traded, it will not be this offseason. And for the reasons that I said, and I'll keep going, I mean, this is a hard trade for another team to do. For any team to give up so much for one player, that's not going to completely change their team. I mean, I could see the Bills doing it, maybe, because the Bills looked like a Super Bowl compatible team, but they were an offensive playmaker away from doing it. So we could see the Bills offer a huge trade, but I don't think the Vikings are going to take it. At least not Rick Spielman, because if Rick Spielman takes the trade anyways, he's going to lose his job, because they're not going to do the same next season. That they're not going to live up to expectations, because you can't have BC come in and fill for Diggs. Even though we saw him do okay when he filled in for Thielen, it's not going to happen. You can't fill in for Diggs like that. So the trade is not going to happen. At least not this offseason. If it happens, it will be halfway through next season when teams see that they need a wide receiver and they need someone to trade for someone, and they offer a lot for Diggs. And I mean a ton. I mean 3 future first-round picks, everything, just so they can go all in next season and get to the Super Bowl if the Vikings already look like they're not a great team at all. But yeah, Diggs doesn't hate being here. He doesn't. He just wants the ball. You see, he has a great relationship with like Jaron Kearse, with Adam Thielen, a lot of these players. He's just a happy guy, but he's sending a lot of hints that he needs the ball, that he wants the ball, that he wants to go somewhere where he can get fed the ball. And this last reason, this leads me to my last thing, and this is the biggest reason. I kind of went into it when I was talking about Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer's, how this is their final year in their window before they don't get another contract or retire, I guess, because I don't think they would go anywhere else. Well, Zimmer's could. But anyways, is this coaching staff is so old. I mean, all these coaching staff are, by the time, if they trade Diggs, if the Vikings say theoretically for some reason, whatever, someone's smoking crack, I don't know, they trade Stephon Diggs, okay? These 60-year-old or 70-year-old coaches, I mean, they just got the Capers guy, 60-some years old. These guys are so old, they're going to be dead by the time this rebuild is done. I mean, why would you want to go into a rebuild? You're going to be crippled or whatever by the time this rebuild is done, because you're going to have to get rid of Diggs, Kirk, Dalvin, your coaching staff, everybody. And what's the point? I mean, you're 60-some years old. No one wants to go into a rebuild when you're that old. Rebuilds are for getting new head coaches, new GMs, not 60 people that were coaching since like the 80s when football was a whole different league. Those are the coaching staff that we have right now, and I don't see it happening. I do not see it happening this offseason. So for any of you Broncos fans, Bills fans, I don't know what else is there, Cardinals fans that are watching this video, sorry to tell you that actually Cardinals look okay, but those two, Broncos and Bills, are like the biggest ones people are talking about. Oh, Patriots too. Sorry to break your hopes and dreams, but you can't have Diggs, at least not this offseason. There's going to be no way. I don't even think, no matter what you offer, you're not going to get Diggs this offseason. It just isn't going to happen. And really, it could happen halfway through next season. If the Vikings are, I don't know, I was thinking about the worst case scenario. I mean, even 5-4, they're just in a really bad spot, and it doesn't look like they're going to win their division. Then we could see a trade happening if they're offered something really good, because a team could be one player away from contending for a Super Bowl and offer a lot. So that's when Diggs could possibly get traded. But we're talking about this offseason because that's what everybody is talking about. I mean, I see people on the apps that are writing articles about this, and everyone thinks he should get traded, and I just don't see it. It doesn't make any sense to me. That just blows my mind, because they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, we've seen this player and we've seen these coaching staff, and it just doesn't work why they would want to trade. And we've seen Diggs. We've seen things happen with Jalen Ramsey. We've seen things happen to Antonio Brown. When they want to get traded, they play horrible. Diggs been wanting to get traded this whole season, and it's his best season of his career. That's better than the season where he had the Minneapolis Miracle. I mean, I don't see it happening. It doesn't make sense here. And if any of you guys disagree with what I said, this was a rant, a whole different video than what I was doing before. I mean, Colin Cowherd, shout out to you for giving me a video idea, because this is how this rant started after watching that. The video, he didn't say much actually, but mostly what he said before about the Vikings. But just let me know if you guys think there's anything that the Vikings, any reason why the Vikings would trade Diggs, and how they would trade Diggs, who they would trade Diggs, what they would get out of it, and really why they would trade Diggs when there is one more year left on the window. I don't care what Colin Cowherd has to say. There's one more year left on the window. So just let me know anything really about this Stephon Diggs trade, because I don't see it. And if you guys can help me understand what everyone else is seeing that I'm not, please leave that in the comment section down below, and I will read and reply to every one of your comments. As well as, if you like this video, please leave a like for the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe for more of the Min Effect, where I talk about sports and honestly just about everything else. I've only talked about sports so far, but I'm going to get into other things as I progress. I'm pretty new to this podcasting thing, so Thank you all for watching. Till next time.